Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is NK, and today in this video we're going to draw the pattern for this beautiful blazer jacket on the screen. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. So with that, let's start. Alright, so I'm starting with the back pattern. So with this basic bodice pattern, I will retrace it out, but first of all I'm going to measure the full length of the jacket, which is going to be 29 inches. After marking the full length of the jacket, here I'm retracing the basic bodice pattern. So I'm going ahead to mark in the lines. And here at the waist, you can see where the position of the waist dart is. I'm not going to draw it out because I need to shift it inwards. So from this point, at the tip of the dart, I mark in 1 inch. Here I'm taking the measurement of the new point and I'm marking it on the waist. So here is the point. I'll go ahead and measure the dart width. So what I have is 1 1/4 inch. Then I'll mark it at this new point. So now I have the new dart. So I'm going to connect it to that new point upwards. Alright, so this is the new dart. So I grab my basic bodice pattern to mark this point on the armhole. This point I just marked is half of the armhole, so I'm joining the curve to touch the tip of the dart. Next, from the waist downwards, I'll measure 8.5 inches. This will be the hip line. I'll do the same across the paper and use my ruler to connect the 2 points together. On the hip line, I'll mark quarter of the hip measurement, which is 10.5. The total hip measurement is 42. And after that, I'll add half an inch ease. So I'm just going to connect it to the waistline. From the center back to the midpoint of the dart, I'll take the measurement and I'll mark it downwards. Then I'll use the ruler to connect the points together with a dotted line. Then from the waistline, I'll mark down 5 inches. I'll connect this point to the 2 dart leg upwards. Next, I'm going to extend this line down to the hem. At the center back on the waistline, I'll mark in half an inch. And from this new point, I'll connect it to the shoulder and also connect it to the hemline. But at the hemline, I'll come out by quarter of an inch. So with my ruler, I'll connect the points together. So from the waist to the shoulder and from the waist to the hemline. Moving up to the shoulder, you can see this dart here. I'm not going to remove that dart because I need to extend the shoulder. Here at the tip of the shoulder, I marked quarter of an inch, and then from the tip of the shoulder again, I'll go upwards by quarter of an inch. I'll use the ruler to connect the point. This will make quarter of the shoulder measurement to be 8.5, and the total measurement will be 17. So here I'm drawing in the new armhole curve, although I'm doing it by freehand. At the armhole line, I'll measure down half an inch. So from that half an inch, I'll draw in a curve to complete the armhole curve. So here at the neckline, I'm going to curve in a bit. And at the measurement here, I have 3/4 of an inch. So I almost forgot to add ease at the waist. So I'm measuring out half an inch. Then I'll go up to the armhole and I'll measure quarter of an inch. So why I'm adding quarter of an inch, because when this pattern was drafted, half an inch was already added there. So I'm connecting the point with the ruler. Then I'll connect it to the hip as well. So this is what I have. I'll go ahead and finish cutting it out. So here I'm just tracing out the pattern. From the hip, I'll measure 8.5 inches. This will be the hip line. From the center front, I'll measure 10.5 inches as quarter of the hip measurement, and then I'll add an extra half an inch for ease. The hip circumference is 42 inches. Then at the waist, I'll also add half an inch ease. Moving up to the armhole line, I'll add quarter of an inch ease. When this pattern was drafted, half an inch was added at the armhole as ease. This will make it a total of 3/4 of an inch. So here I'm just using the ruler to connect the point from the armhole to the waist, from the waist to the hip and down to the hemline. Here at the waist dart, I'm just going to find the midpoint of the dart. From the center front to this new mark I just made, I'll take the measurement and I'll mark it down here. I'll go ahead and connect the 2 points with the dotted line. From the waist, I'll mark 5 inches downwards. Alright, so with my ruler, I will just draw a new dart. Next, from the center front, I'll measure out 1 inch. This I will do upwards to the neckline. After that, the next thing to do is to cover up this shoulder dart. So to cover up this shoulder dart, what I'm going to do is to create a space at the armhole. So I'm going to draw a line from the deepest part of the curve at the armhole towards the bust point. As you can see, I've transferred the shoulder dart to the armhole, but I only need to widen the armhole by half an inch. I'll move down to the waist. At this point that I'll attach the pocket, I will transfer some of these darts down there. So from the waist, I'm measuring down 1 3/4 inches. This is the position where the pocket will be. After that, I will cut open this line I just drew for the pocket all the way to the bust point. I hope what I'm doing is not confusing. Why I'm doing this is because I don't want the darts to go down the hem of the jacket. Here I'm just closing the space so that I will be left with just half an inch. So this is one of the patterns for the back, and I'm going to take the shoulder measurement. So I have 5.5 inches. So here I'm just going to mark that 5.5 inches. This is just so that the shoulder measurement for the front and the back is the same. Then I'll go upwards by 1/4 of an inch, just like I did for the back pattern. From the tip of the neck, I'll draw a straight line towards the tip of the shoulder on that 1/4 of an inch mark. Before I go ahead to draw in the new armhole curve, I'll go down to the armhole line. From that point, I'll measure down half an inch. Once that is done, I'll go ahead and draw in the new armhole curve, starting from that point at the tip of the shoulder down to the new point I marked below the armhole line. For the width of the neckline, I have 3 inches, which is the exact same thing as that of the back pattern. Now vertically from the tip, I'll measure 4 inches downwards. I'll do the same thing on the other side as well. Here I'm joining the new neck curve, which is exactly 1 inch longer than the previous one. Moving on to the waistline, at that new center front, I'll mark 3/4 of an inch upwards. Then at the neck, I'll come out by 3/4 of an inch as well. Then I'll extend the line out. From the new point at the neck, I'll draw a straight line connecting to the point above the waistline. So here I'm wiping off the lines we don't need so that we don't get confused. I need to add an extra paper to the center front for the collar. Next, I will measure 2.5 inches from the neck downwards. From that point, I'll draw a straight line to the base of the neck. I'll also draw another line from that point upwards and extend it out. Now on this point at the center front, I will extend a line out. On that line, I'll mark out 2 1/4 inches. Then from that point, I'll measure upwards 1 3/4 inches and mark the point. With my ruler, I'll draw a straight line from that point to that middle point. After that, I'll move down to the waist. On that point I made above the waistline, I'll use the ruler and draw a curve connecting to that point at the tip. Next, I'll measure the curve of the back pattern. So here's my back pattern. With my tape, I'm going to take the measurement. So what I have here is 3/8 of an inch, and I went upwards to this straight line to mark it here. So the one I marked here is wrong, but I ended up correcting myself. Now on that point I just made, I will go in by 1/2 inch. Using my ruler, I'll connect the point to the shoulder. After that, I'll mark another line out. Then on this part, I'll mark in 1/2 inch, which I'll connect upwards to the other part of the collar. Then on this line, I'll measure 3 inches and mark the point. Then here I'll measure 3 1/4 inches. Then with my ruler, I'll draw in a curve, not a straight line. I'll also use a curve to connect it to this part as well. Having done all this, the next thing is to cut out the pattern. So I'll go back to the dart. On this point, I'll mark in 1/4 of an inch and draw a straight line upwards. Then on this side as well, I'll mark 1/4 of an inch and connect it to that part. So why I'm doing this is because that point before the pocket is where I want the dart to stop, and I need it to be straight. And as for this 1/4 of an inch that I marked out from these two dart leg, I'll replace it back later on. So this remaining part of the dart, I'm taking the measurement because I want to cut it out from the side. So I'm marking the measurement here. And as for the 1/4 of an inch I took out from the two dart legs, I'm replacing it here as 1/2 inch because they are two. So now I'm connecting that point to the waistline. And then down here, I will connect from the hip to that point I make here. So this is what I just did here. So as you can see, they align with each other. The two lines align with each other. So now I'm going to mark the point where the pocket will be. So from this side, I'll measure out 5.5 inches. So I'll just mark the point, use my ruler to extend the line out or extend the line downwards. So what I'm drawing in now is actually the pocket flap. So from this point, I'll measure 1 3/4, then I'll do that on the other side as well. Then with the ruler, I'll connect the two points together. After that, I'll cut out the pattern. So I'm going to divide this pattern into two. The first part where the center front is will be the main fabric, while the other part will be the lining. So here on the neck of the back, I'm drawing in this curve. You'll see why I did this later on. Mind you, I'm not cutting it out now. Alright, we're done with the body. We're moving on to the sleeve. So for the back pattern, I'll measure the armhole. Yeah. So I'll also measure the armhole curve for the front as well. Here I'm marking 6 inches as the sleeve cap and 24.5 inches as the length of the sleeve. Then I'll do the same on this side as well. With my ruler, I'm going to draw a straight line connecting all the points together. Here I'll place my tape on the tip and extending down to this line and mark 10 inches. So this is exactly 10 inches. How I got this 10 inches is I added the armhole curve for the front plus the armhole curve for the back and divide by 2. So what I got was 10 inches. This straight line, I'm going to divide it by 3. So I'm marking the point here, and this last one I'll divide it into 2 again and mark the point. So on this first point, I'll mark out 3/4 inch. Then on this last one, I'll mark 1/4 inch. With the ruler, I'll create a curve connecting the 2 points. Then I'll do the same thing here. I'll extend this line and I'll mark out 1/2 inch. Then on this first line, I'll mark out 1/2 inch as well. Then with my ruler, I'll create another curve. This will be for the front. Yeah, this one that goes lower will be for the front, while the first one will be for the back. So I'll go out and cut out the pattern. Mind you, this is not the end of it. Then I also mark off this part as well. Remember, this for the front, while the other side is for the back. So here I'm just marking a notch here. So this line, I'm drawing it on the other side of the sleeve as well. Sorry, I lost the clip where I drew in the elbow line. So I just labeled them front and back. So here I'm just folding it towards the center. I'll do the same for the other side as well. So why I'm doing this is because this sleeve is meant to be a 2-piece sleeve, which is normally used for jackets. So I'm using sellotape to hold it together. Then on this side, I'll mark 1/2 inch in. Do the same for this side as well, 1/2 inch in, and draw in a line. So after that, I'll cut it off. Then I'll cut this side as well. So as you can see, one is larger, one is smaller. Okay, so I'm placing the larger one on another empty sheet of paper and I'm retracing it out. So after retracing it, I'm just using sellotape to hold it to the paper. Then on the elbow line, I'll mark out 1/2 inch and connect the point to the wrist. I'll also connect that point upwards to the armhole. Next, from the wrist, I'll measure upwards 5 inches. Then on the side, I'm measuring 1 1/4 inches. I'm connecting the 2 points together. Now this side is for the button. So after this, I'll remove the pattern paper. Then I'll go to the elbow line. So on the elbow line, just like I did for the other side, I'll go in by 1/2 inch. So this side is the front part. I'm going in by 1/2 inch, while for the back, I went out by 1/2 inch. So there's a difference. So I went ahead to cut it out. This is what it looks like. Then for this smaller piece, I'm retracing it out, just like I did for the other bigger piece. Then on the wrist, as you can see, it's not straight, so I'm using a ruler to draw a straight line to make it straight. So I'm marking a point on this elbow line on both sides. So I'm going to remove the pattern out. So next, I'll draw in the elbow line. This side is the back and here is the front. So on the front, I'm going in by 1/2 inch. Then I'll connect it to the wrist. So from that elbow, I'll also connect it to the armhole as well. So for the back, I'll go out by 1/2 inch and connect to the wrist and to the armhole as well. From the wrist line, I'll measure 5 inches upward, just like I did for the larger piece. So I'm just extending this line so that I can draw an accurate line. So 5 inches upwards. Then I'll measure here 1 1/4 inch. After this, I'll just cut it out. So here's the two of them together. We've come to the end of this tutorial. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Next video is going to be all about the sewing part, so stay tuned. Bye.